Hi here. This is a reading for the sign of Virgo. We're going to do a Celtic crossbred with the Thoth deck, and what we see on the bottom of that deck is going to represent what you don't see coming. Once we get an idea of what the general message of this reading is, we're then going to pull 3 cards from the shadow deck to see what's going on in your subconscious and to see if there's any further clarifications we might need. So let's just see what happens. Okay. So today we are tuning in to the sign of Virgo. So if that is your sun, your moon, or your rising sign, or however else you choose to identify today with the sign of Virgo, you can use that as a way to interpret the messages that are coming through. And as always, if the details of these messages do not fit, do not try to force them. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. And if none of the details really seem to fit, that's okay. You can always check your other placements, or you can just stick around and see what's going on in the world of other Virgos. So let's see what messages we can get today. What things should we think about as we channel the energy of Virgo? Are there any things we should look forward to? Are there any warnings that we need to be made aware of? Are there things we should think about? Things we should meditate upon? What kind of messages do we need to see today for all of those who are trying to tap in to the sign of Virgo? So let's just get a little bit more of a shuffle here, and then we'll see what the cards have for us today. So as I said, we're going to do a traditional Celtic cross reading, and we will see what is on the bottom of the deck afterwards to see what we don't see coming. Okay, so let us see what we have today. Okay, that feels good. Okay, so in the present moment, we start with the Knight of Swords. So this is like the wind of a tornado or a hurricane just bursting down from the sky to give us some sort of insight. So whatever knowledge the Knight of Swords is bringing to us, it's going to come in quick, and it's going to come in powerful, and it's going to come in precise. There's not going to be any mincing of words. This could sometimes be a really cold realization. This is not something that's going to be motivated by emotion. This is something that is going to be a sharp insight, some moment of clarity that we perhaps either had some blockage or we're ignoring. But this is going to be some bit of information that is going to come in quickly, and it's going to be something that is likely going to influence whatever situation we are currently in. This is going to be something that is going to shake things up, perhaps give us some new perspectives, but it's going to be an active realization that is really going to affect how we move forward with whatever the rest of the situation is going to be. So it's not clear yet what the situation might be, but that's the mode that we're starting in this quick realization of some insight that, again, either was maybe had some blockages that we couldn't see clearly before, or perhaps we were just not looking in the right direction to see what it was that we needed to have brought to our attention. So let's see what this insight is. Okay, so we are crossed by the Nine of Swords. So this is probably a difficult realization. Whatever the Knight of Swords is bringing to us, the insight that he is putting into our minds is going to be something that it's going to take a little bit of adjustment to. It's gonna hurt a little bit. It's gonna cause a little bit of anxiety, but usually that heavy insights that come to us in these quick moments are things that can allow us to grow and develop. And yeah, let's just get a sense of where we're going from here. So. Okay, so we have in the past the Devil and the Three of Swords. So this is not a fun realization, but hopefully it's still one that's constructive. So let's see what else we have. We have the Seven of Cups. We have the Five of Wands, the Four of Pentacles, the Seven of Wands, the Knight of Swords, and the Hierophant there at the top. Okay, so yeah, let's get a sense of what's going on here. This feels, like I said, this feels like a realization that's come in, some moment of clarity that I think is going to bring us into a more positive future. But it's gonna be a bit of a bumpy ride. Like I said, the Knight of Swords comes in with the gust of like a hurricane force wind or a tornado really coming in and shaking things up. I mean, you see right here how quickly he comes flying in on this horse. So let's see what is going on here. Let's get a little bit of a sense of the energy distribution here. Let's look at what kind of energies we have from our four suits. So as far as major arcana go, we have two. We have the Devil and the Hierophant, which is a really interesting pairing. These really seem like they're, in some sense, almost in opposition to each other, right? One is the sort of more priestly, chaste Hierophant who is trying to provide for us knowledge that helps us gain direct contact with the divine, however you interpret that. And here on the other end, the other extreme, we have the Devil, which is pulling us essentially in the opposite direction, pulling us more towards our earthly base passions, the things that are not necessarily healthy for our spiritual growth. But you can't ignore the power of the devil either. Not to say that you should be like a devil worshiper or anything like that, but these are really just the two extremes that sort of pull us between our physical desires and our more spiritual desires. And we need to live somewhere in between these two if we're really going to have a nice, healthy balance. So it's interesting to see these two cards together. In terms of the other cards that we have here, so let's see. In terms of Earth energy, we have a Four of Pentacles, and that is all I see here for Earth energy. We then have, what else? So we've got for our air, we have the Knight of Swords, the Nine of Swords, the Three of Swords, and yeah, so we have three from the suit of swords. That's a fair bit of air. And unfortunately, this is some of the more painful air that we're seeing here. So this is definitely, whatever these insights are, they're not going to be things that are going to be comfortable to think about, but that doesn't mean that they're not constructive. In terms of our other suits, we then look at, let's say with cups, we've got the Seven, and that is it. Which is a little bit of emotional energy here, but it's the Seven of Cups, which is this, as you see here with this image, is a little bit of the sort of stale side. So I'm already kind of getting a vibe that perhaps we are coming out of a sort of like muddy place in our lives where things are not quite as good as they could be. You know, maybe the water that we've been swimming in is getting a little stagnant and we need to start kind of cleaning it up, right? We need to get the pH back in balance. We need to clean out some of that algae and really do a little bit of work to get ourselves back in tune with what I feel is probably getting back in touch with our spiritual side. Perhaps we're leaning a little too much into the devil energy and our earthly desires, which, again, you don't want to ignore that. We can't just purely be, spiritual, energetic beings, but we do need to make sure that we keep everything in balance. We don't want to go one extreme or the other. In terms of our other suit with fire, we have, it looks like 1, 2, 3. We have the 5, the 7, and the Knight of Wands. So we have two knights here. We have the Knight of Swords and the Knight of Wands, which really feels like a lot of really active power coming in here. So I feel like the air energy is probably sort of coming externally into you, and the fire energy is sort of, I feel, is likely what is sort of being fueled from you and then pumped back into the world. So that's kind of how I'm seeing this energy just at a macro level here. But we can go through little by little and see what these cards are really saying. So, as I said, in the present moment, we start with the Knight of Swords. So I feel like this is a realization. I feel like perhaps it's even a wake-up call. With the Nine of Swords here, this is the card of, often it's a card of nightmares, of sitting alone in your thoughts, and those thoughts really weighing on you quite heavily and causing some level of pain and anxiety. So I feel like what we might be coming here, with the recent past being the card of the devil, I get the sense that perhaps we're getting a little bit too involved in the things that make us feel good, a little bit too involved in our earthly passions, which, again, you want to tap into that energy, but you don't want to go too far down that route, or it's just going to pull you down and become a whole new kind of prison for you to not be able to escape. So I feel like perhaps we're leaning a little too much into that devil energy. And so as we're letting that come a little bit too powerful on us, the Nine of Swords and the Knight of Swords together are that realization that, okay, this we've hit a point where we need to turn and pivot and move into something more positive. For all of this to be here at the bottom, having this Seven of Cups, I think that this insight that the Knight of Swords is bringing to us is this realization that as we get a little bit too much into these earthly uh, passions and things like that, we're getting a little bit too muddy with the way we feel about ourselves. Okay, so again, it's like we have a pH scale and we're pulling a little bit too low. We need to kind of even that out and pull that back into the middle. So what we need to do is we need to pull that Nine of Swords energy sort of back, like, think of it as like if these thoughts are kind of like barreling into you to kind of help you realize that you've got all this gunk that needs to be pulled out. I'm kind of envisioning like those little fishbone things that you put inside of a drain when it gets too clogged up, and you get a little too much hair in the drain, and you put those things down the drain and then you pull it out slowly and it pulls all that gunk out. I kind of feel like that's what the Knight of Swords and the Nine of Swords are really doing here. We're in this devil energy. Things are getting a little too mucky. Things are starting to look a little bit like this Seven of Cups, where it feels good, but it doesn't feel quite right. And if we want things to flow more naturally, we got to pull that gunk out. So I feel like we're pulling that gunk out as the Knight of Swords, as this tool that we need to, like, it doesn't feel good because you're clawing this junk out of this drain. But I feel like as we pull that out, that's going to lead us to something that's going to be a little bit more positive going forward. And so I think that's here what the sorrow is the experience of really picking out all of this gunk. I feel like we're probably in a period where, we needed to get more in touch with the things we enjoy. But as we get a little too into that, we dip too much into this nastiness. And so now we're really in the thick of cleaning up the sort of inside mess that needs to be tidied up for us to feel a lot more passionate and happy with our position in the world. But it doesn't feel good. That's why we have the sorrow here. I think as we are pulling this stuff up, as you're pulling that hair out of the drain, you're pulling out all the bad stuff, but you're also potentially pulling out a little bit of the wounds from past experiences that, perhaps you're in a position where you've sort of buried some of the things in your past that didn't feel so good, and you were able to kind of hide them by using that devil energy to just sort of mask it with things that feel good. So as we're pulling all of that out, we're exposing some of those wounds, and I always feel like the Three of Swords almost feels like picking at a scab kind of energy. It doesn't feel good because you've got an open wound that needs to heal. And so as we're doing this work of cleaning out all of this mess, we're tapping into some of that pain, but I think it's for positive growth. So with the Five of Swords there at the top, the card of strife, I feel like as we're cleaning all of this stuff out, we're unclogging this drain so that more can actually flow through it. So it's like a conduit. Good things can go one way, bad things can go another way through this. It's like a tube. We're taking in positive and negative things, and we're also unleashing the positive and negative things inside of us. But as we do this cleaning work that is difficult and painful, it allows us to get a better flow of both the positive and negative. And I feel like the Five of Wands here is sort of indicative of that, both sides of that. It's the fire that can come through this conduit once it's been cleaned out. So I feel like right now we're in the task of trying to clean this junk out so that we can allow more powerful energy to flow through us with this Five of Wands. And I think what we're going to see going forward is that once that flow has been opened up, the strife that is going to be navigating us going forward, the Five of Wands energy that we're going to want to move ourselves towards, is making sure that once we've cleaned this stuff out, the things that we are pumping through this drain are going to be the positive things, and we don't want it to just get clogged back up with more gunk. So that's why I think here in your general energy, we have the Four of Pentacles, or Four of Discs, because we want to build a good foundation going forward. Once we've cleaned all of this junk out of us, we want to create a nice protective barrier so that this junk doesn't get back inside of us, so that we don't have to go through this painful cleaning process again. So we want to build a good, solid, grounded foundation so that we can let positive things flow through us and start moving into a much more positive direction going forward. And that's what the Seven of Wands is. This is the card of having the high ground, knowing that you have the upper hand as long as you stick to what you know is right. This is the Valor card. So if we can build a good solid foundation going forward and not let this gunk get back inside of us after we've done the work of pulling it out, as we were analyzing all these difficult things about us, we can learn the lessons of what got us to this place. And we can take those insights and move forward so that they can strengthen us and we can make positive choices. And that's what here in your environment with the Seven of Wands is. I feel it's you being able to take the lessons learned from this experience, moving forward with them in a way that's going to allow this to stay like a nice, clean conduit. So, if we're thinking in terms of a drain, so that way the water can flow more constructively through it, right? Notice here, there's like only one card of water, and it's a really nasty, gunky water card. So I like this metaphor of unclogging a drain because once that drain has been unclogged, then we can let the positive emotional water flow back through this like we didn't before. So the sword energy is like the fishbone tool pulling the gunk out, and then the fire energy is like a sort of sanitizing this so that way it can be cleaned out and be a conduit moving forward for positive things. Now, with the Knight of Wands in your challenge, again, I think this actually sticks in or goes with the idea that I had before with we're using the fire energy to sort of help us clean this out so that going forward we can get more positive things flowing through this conduit. So as this is your challenge, what that means is that as we move forward with our lives, we need to make sure that the sanitation process that we've done, right, we build a foundation on this nice, clean conduit we've created, and then we are able to sort of push forward and keep this thing open and clean as we're putting that fire energy to keep the gunk from building up like a plaque, and we don't want that buildup to occur. The challenge is making sure that this process continues forward. So as we move forward into the world, and we start interacting with more things again, we don't want to get pulled back into devil energy. We don't want more gunk getting inside. The challenge is embodying the strength of the Knight of Wands so that we can gallop forward with, look how much free energy he has. He's literally like a flaming horse moving forward with his wand of just pure fire. We want to keep that energy as we move forward so that the devil gunk doesn't get sucked back inside of us. We want to burn off all of that negativity and let it burn into something positive that we can then put back into the world. As that gunk is burning off from the fire, maybe you can visualize it as being like turning back into air energy, but we're burning off the negative, painful air energy, and we're trying it to bring it into more positive, like Ace of Swords, positive air energy for clarity so that we can move forward. It's almost like his sword here could be like an Ace of Swords that's completely engulfed in flames. And as it's engulfed in flames, that prevents it from being able to get gunked back up again. Okay? And so then the likely outcome of this is the Hierophant. And I think what the whole point of this cleaning out process really is so that we can get back in touch with our connection to our spiritual life. We want to make sure, and whatever that is for you, whatever religion you follow, or even if you're not a religious person, this is just tapping into your spirituality and feeling more connected with the universe as a whole. If you're gunked up with all of this devil energy, it's like you have an antenna that's got all this blockage. It can't receive the signals it needs to receive. It can't really tap into a connection with the surrounding environment. So as we move forward, we do this cleaning process and we keep our energy in a nice, positive, fiery, goodwill sort of energy that then cleans us out so that we can be the conduit for tapping into whatever positive things we can suck in from our environment that are not devil energy. Again, we want to stay grounded in the physical world and make sure that we still feel connected with the things we enjoy. We don't want to reject joys, but we want to make sure that we can get this thing back into focus, back in tune, and that's when we can follow the energy of the Hierophant and follow the traditions that will allow us to live a happy and constructive life rather than getting sucked back into pure devil energy. Now, again, don't go too far down the Hierophant path. We want to stay grounded. We want the balance between the two of these, but that balance is only going to be maintained if this gunk doesn't clog up. Right? Think of like a vein or an artery. If too much plaque builds up in there, it creates a blockage, and that's going to make your heart not work so well. So we want to make sure that that's a clean conduit, so that way that fiery blood energy inside of us can help us really feel grounded and alive. And then the earthly things that we connect with don't have a devil quality so much as a balance between the spiritual and the physical extremes of these two cards here. So that's what I'm getting from all of that. So we're cleaning ourselves out. It's not going to feel great, but it's going to be productive work. And as long as we keep this cleaning process up consistently, it won't have to be this painful process again. We just have to keep doing routine maintenance on ourselves. And as this is a Virgo reading, I think that's something Virgos are definitely good about, really putting in consistent work, and being sort of very productive in terms of working on things. And so this is, I think, a calling to do all of that on your internal self. So in terms of what you don't see coming, the Princess of Cups. This is the bearer of the water energy. From the Ace of Cups is essentially given to the princess for her to then bring it into the world. And so, yeah, as I said, the only water energy we have so far is the 7. It's all gunked up and muddy. So it's like if this drainage pipe that we're flowing this water through is all clogged up with gunk, this is what the water's going to look like. But once you go through this process and you clean all of this stuff out and you tap back into your spiritual side, this is the Princess of Cups is going to be what you don't see coming, is this offering of having this emotional energy flowing back through you again, being presented with that water that now has a nice clean conduit to flow through, and that's what's going to make you really feel happier and grounded, and that feels really good. So okay, now let's get a reading from the shadow deck. Let's see what cards it has to share with what's going on in your subconscious, and then we'll wrap this reading up. Let's see what we have. So we're going to pull 3 cards. Let's see what we get. So these are going to represent what is in your subconscious, thoughts that you may not be actively aware of, but are perhaps, steering the show from behind the curtain. Pay no attention to the energy behind the curtain, so to speak. Well, we want to pay attention to it. Let's see what we get. One more good shuffle. All right, let's see what we get. The Hanged Man, the Chariot, and Temperance. Okay, yeah, no, this makes sense. So the Hangman is the card of sitting quietly and reflecting. It feels like a very stationary card, but it's really not. It's a card of a lot of work being done, but it's all internal work. So it makes sense that this is popping up in your subconscious, because the cleaning that you're doing here, this 9 of Swords and Knight of Swords energy that's pulling all of this negative 3 of Swords energy sort of out of this pipe that's all blocked up, that's what's going on. Is the Hangman is sitting there. He's going through this process like a caterpillar in a cocoon, moving into the next era of whatever he's going to be. So we're cleaning ourselves out, and that's the Hangman energy that you're in. And then we have it followed by the Chariot, which is a card about we want to move forward. So we want to get this flow going back through this pipe, but that comes from this balance I keep talking about. You have these 2 extremes that are the 2 horses that are pushing the chariot forward, and they need to be pulled together with your personal strength so that can be a force that moves forward. If they're moving in different directions, then the chariot's not going to go anywhere. It's going to get ripped apart. So we're sitting in our stationary period. Perhaps you're even literally meditating, or perhaps you should meditate. That might be a constructive way to do this process. But you're then trying to get everything in alignment as the chariot then sort of goes forward through this process. And that process is, in fact, the Temperance card. Again, we're trying to balance these extremes of the Devil and the Hierophant. And even more so, another interpretation of the Temperance card from the Thoth deck is the Art card. This is almost like the card of alchemy, of transmuting things into something else. So I think all this gunk that we're pulling up, all this negative emotions that we're having sort of uncovered inside of this piping that is our bodies and our minds, the fire energy is taking all of that, like I described, and burning it off. And that burning process is changing all of that gunk. I mean, that matter isn't destroyed, it just changes form. So all that negativity that we're cleaning out inside of us, we're burning that off, and it's turning back into air energy. But we're burning off that negative, gunky water, air corrupted water energy in a more positive, flowing air energy. That is what the Hierophant wants us to tap into as we get more connected with our spiritual side. And that's why I think the Temperance card is here. We're sitting in a moment of reflection, trying to get things back into alignment, trying to make some level of balance, and then using that process as a way of building a more positive version of ourselves and our thought processes and cleaning us up so that we can be more receptive to positive growth moving forward. And what we don't see coming from the shadow deck is the Knight of Wands. So, all right, he's right over there. The Knight of Wands here. I think this is the same idea of now moving forward through this process. Keep this cleaning process happening. This is not a one and done thing. As soon as we stop this cleaning process, it's going to start getting gunked up again. So keep doing this going forward. Make this a perpetual life change, and always be working on yourself and moving towards a level of balancing out your physical desires and your spiritual needs. Don't do just one or the other. Keep them in alignment, but always be. I guess one way to think of it is use your sort of spiritual side as a way to burn off the energy that is being collected through your physical experiences. So it's really like a give and take. It's like the earthly devil energy is like the fodder that we're going to use to build this fire. And once that fire is built, the Knight of Wands is using that fire energy to build some positive emotional and air energy out of that allows us to connect with the divine in whatever way that means for you. So that's what I have for you today. I hope this was helpful. And again, as always, if there are other meanings or interpretations of these cards that stand out to you from the images or anything I've suggested, always use your intuition to get a sense of what the message should be for you. But I hope this was helpful, and I hope you enjoyed this experience. As always, please like and subscribe if you have not already. If there's anything you'd like to discuss or comments you'd like to leave, please drop those in the comment section below. And if you know anyone else that might enjoy these videos, please share them with anyone who might appreciate them or find some positive things out of them. But yeah, that's all I have for you today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.